Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rick Gutierrez, your new host for BizTalk, and I'm also your business advocate. On this show here every single week, where you're going to have experienced entrepreneurs that are going to be providing us with tips, tricks, insights that we could potentially put in place in our business. We're excited for this show. I'm excited to be a part of the show and interview a lot of business professionals that are just going to help us along the way. With that being said, I've got an amazing person who has been by my side for a very long time, and she's actually one of my mentors. She doesn't know this yet, but she is one of my mentors. I looked up to her for many, many years, and she actually was the one that gave me my first shot at being someone. And so I'd like to introduce to you none other than the one and only Miss Leadership herself, Miss Emily Galindo. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Rick.
It's fantastic to have you. It's just a long time coming. We've been wanting to do this for a very long time, and the day is finally here. So let's talk a little bit about business. Let's talk a little bit about your background, networking, and all of those great things. But first and foremost, let's let our viewers know exactly who you are, what you do, what your background is. I know it's got something to do with sales and marketing. That's kind of like your background. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a sales and marketing consultant by trade and have been doing that for the last 13 years, typically working with small business owners, small and medium-sized businesses, trying to help them figure out how to increase their sales and how to do more business. So I did that originally in the digital marketing space, website, social media, SEO, and worked with over 1,000 businesses, helping them become more successful utilizing the internet. I then found my passion in networking and referral marketing. So that's really how I grew my business and grew my connections and my network was by official traditional types of networking, right? Whether that was the chamber, the casual networking, structured networking. I've done it all. At one point in my career, I was at like 5 or 6 networking events a week. And it did yield results, right? Like it did help me become more successful. And through that transition, I did step into some executive leadership positions within a very large networking organization and helped multiple of thousands of businesses understand how to use networking to increase their business and was extremely successful at that. I've worked in multiple states across the country helping people understand how to do referral marketing. And I was I love that position. I love working with people because everybody loves to do what they love to do. Not everybody loves to do the business side of actually generating revenue and converting sales. That's not really the fun part for a lot of people about why they bought or built their business. So being able to help them understand that relationships are the thing that helps them have more success across the board and through utilizing your networking, that is where I really find my passion. And so since then, I have now I'm a co-founder of a Next Level NIA, which is a franchise of Network in Action. And so we are a rapidly growing networking franchise that is helping even more business owners across the country and across the globe utilize and capitalize on their net worth, which is their network.
Perfect. Thank you so much for elaborating on that. But one of the things that I do also want to mention is that even though you've moved, from the sales and marketing aspect, you do still do a little bit of consulting and probably even some training when it comes to sales and marketing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've always done that. I still do that. I come into companies and help teach conversion training using different tactics. I'm an independent consultant in terms of digital marketing. A lot of people don't understand what to expect, right? Like the only person who's telling them that their social media marketing or their digital marketing is good is typically the salesperson, and they have no idea what's going on. So I will come in and just do a non-biased evaluation of what to expect, and if it's good, you should stay with them or make recommendations. So I do still do lots of leadership and sales coaching for companies.
It's amazing because I do also have a marketing background of many, many years. And I think that's probably one of the things that connected us rather than looking at each other as competition. We've always collaborated at one point or another, right? So Thank you for sharing that. Now, the other thing that I do want to go into, because you mentioned that you transition into referral marketing and amazing things that you have done there, but there's something that I feel is going on in the world of referral marketing or just networking in a sense. What do you think has changed in the world of networking, business networking that you've seen out there out on the field?
Yeah, so like I said, there's lots of different options of where to network, right? There's what we call casual networking, which is going to be like working a chamber room with drinks and hopefully you bump into somebody. There's also strong contact places like like NIA, like Network in Action, that has a consistent structure to it that expects people to participate and get results, right? There's community involvement. There's networking with other professionals in your same industry to see what's working for them and see if you can duplicate that. I think one of the biggest struggles is not a lot of evolution has happened in the last 40 years. The chamber's been around for over 100, BNI has been around for over 40, and the system is still in place and is not taking into account what the society has done to transition over the last 40 years, right? We've got a huge influx in technology. AI is making things simpler for people. Technology is a big piece of that. People's time and people's resources, right, are all going to be different, are going to be things that have impacted small businesses and their ability to invest, whether it's time or money, in networking to make it actually worth their while. So, and I haven't seen anything aside from what we're doing at Network in Action to address some of those concerns.
Making it worth their while is the key words that I just heard. You said so many amazing things, but making it worth their while. So there's something that you and I have seen that a lot of business professionals, business owners are looking for in the world of networking. And they're looking for something that is a little bit more intentional, something that they can really take some key ingredients, maybe some nuggets of information, education that they can potentially put into place in their business, or maybe even just generate new contacts, new appointments, and potentially even close business at a networking event. What would you call what it is that they're looking for? I call it intentional networking. Would that be what you would call it?
I would honestly call it value. Um, the challenge with traditional networking, right, is that you show up, and let's be honest, when you come to a networking event, you come to grow your own business, right? And typically, whenever you go, whatever one you go to, it's like me. How can I grow? How can I do this? And your intention is to sell to the person in front of you. I think that intention is a good word, but value on top of just because I can make connections anywhere, right? I can bump into somebody, I can go to anything else. But I have to, the ownership is on me to cultivate that relationship. And you can do that anywhere. But where can you go where you can actually be in the same room with somebody who has the same intention to want to help you as much as as you want to help them, that has the connections that you're looking for so that your time is not being spent with people that quite frankly may or may not be able to help you. And then on top of that, what value are you giving to me in aside from connections that I can take into my life, my business, these relationships that is actually going to move the drastic needle to the next level. And I think that's the thing that's really missing is that, and I'll use your word, intention from the organization, from the group, that we're that we value you as a member, right? Like we want you to be successful and you are a part of this organization because we can help you and we all are here for the same reason, right? Like the value of business resources, the introductions to the next level people, all of those things I think is what's missing. There's a lot of like hands off organizations. It's like pay, figure it out. If it works, great. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul on us. But like we're us at Network in Action are community builders. are the owners of the business. They need and want you to stay there. We need and want you to be successful so that you continue to be members. And so I think that that piece right there is the intention of a win-win situation.
Fantastic. So again, a lot of great content there in terms of intentional networking and value networking. One of the things that I have to ask you, just because I think you can elaborate a little bit on this, tell us a little bit about network in action and why network in action.
Yeah, I think so. For the biggest one is one I just mentioned, which is that our community builders are our franchise owners. They are fine. I mean, just to be honest, financially incentivized by your membership dues to be successful, to constantly provide value so that you stay. And so that way you get what you want. You have, right, a good reputation. You invite potentially or introduce them to people. So that right there, it makes it completely different than any other organization. We truly value and need you and want you to stay. So we're going to do our job to make that happen. The other thing that we have not talked about as of yet is the amount of time. As I mentioned, I did 5 to 6 networking events a week. I was an independent contributor, right? So that was my full-time job. But if you're looking at like a service provider or anybody who actually has to do the fulfillment piece of building the website or plumbing the pipes or anything like that, every minute they are not, servicing their customer and they are investing in their business, which they need to do. But that's also, it's that trade-off, right? And there's only so much time in the day, and we value that greatly at Network in Action. We because of the intention, because of our commitment to one another, because of the value in our monthly meetings, we are actually saving networkers 80 to 100 hours a year by knowing that when they come to our meeting, they are focused on their business and each other for those 90 minutes, and it's value add, value received, and referrals generated, and then they can go back to doing their business. And so that, I think, is going to be one of the biggest. The time commitment is not nearly as high as it is because the intention is much higher. And our business advocates, our business community builders are going to be the ones who are building the group, making the introductions, helping you get those referrals that you want and those business connections that you need. And so that's going to be, I think, the two biggest things is that we save people time and we have access to higher level business for you.
All right, thank you so much. Emily, we want to thank you for being on the show. Amazing content. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for everything that you do for our business. But if people want to network and get to know more about you, our business and or our networking events coming up, how can we get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Well, you can certainly go visit our website at niahouston.com. All of our groups are there for you to check out. And you can certainly reach out to me at emily@nextlevelnia.com. And we would happily be able to introduce you to anybody you'd like to know.
Awesome. Emily, once again, thank you so much for being on the show. We definitely do appreciate you. I will see you soon. And that's it, folks. We're going to go into a commercial break. Stay right there. We'll be right back. Hey folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to BizTalks. My name is Rick Gutierrez, your new talk host. We're here with John Mitchell, who is an expert in tax law, and so we welcome him to the show. Mr. Mitchell, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hey Rick, it's really good to be back on BizTalk. I've been on a few times before, and always happy to share with the audience and have some some good information out there that people can use. And sure happy to be able to talk with you today.
Awesome. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you being here previously. I've seen some of your previous shows. Great content, great information. It seems like you've been doing this for a little while now. I would say that you are an expert, would you say?
Well, I would say so, and I think even more importantly, other people that have worked with me would say so. So that's the more important thing. What do other people consider you? Because I could consider myself the king of Persia, but it doesn't matter if other people don't agree, right?
Absolutely. I mean, your book of business talks a great deal about you. So thank you for doing everything that you do for business owners, and on the personal side as well. I imagine you do a little bit of that. But this is a BizTalk show. It's all about business. We want to know several things that go on in the business world when it comes to tax law and all of that good stuff. So doing some networking, I get to talk to a lot of people, and one of the things that comes up a lot in the tax law realm is, can an attorney represent you and negotiate for you on your behalf, in front of the IRS? Is that something that can be done, and do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that question. That's a great question. And in fact, that is kind of the meat and bones of what we do, all the time, every day. I just had a conference with IRS appeals on behalf of a client this morning. And so the way this can go down is a couple of different ways, right? So if you have some kind of a tax issue with the IRS, and you come to me with that issue, uh, there's a couple of different ways I can handle it, right? If it's something simple, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just use a form number called 8821. You sign that. It's called a tax information authorization. That allows me to call up the IRS and just ask them questions, or have them to send me some printouts, right? Some transcripts. So let's say you've got a problem with the 2021 taxes, right? You can sign the 8821. I fax that over to the IRS or upload it through their online portal. They still accept faxes, but we can do it either way. And then that will allow me to call them and either ask questions or ask them, hey, send me printouts of this man's, tax returns or whatever, maybe the account transcript. So I can kind of see what's going on. And then I would be able to, get back in touch with you and say, hey, here's what I found and here's what I recommend that you do. And sometimes I do that on smaller cases where it's not really worth it to hire me, full on, right? Because my rate's $300 an hour. So, maybe it's not worth it for you, right? But I'll try and help you out anyway by at least calling the IRS, feel out the situation, see what's up. But the 8821 only, that's what's called a tax information authorization. So that authorizes you, the taxpayer, authorize the IRS to release information to me, a third party in their eyes, right? But then there's another way that I can go about it. There's another route, so to speak, fork in the road, right? So I can either I can do that, or I can do the 2848, which is a power of attorney. And a power of attorney is a lot more powerful thing, let us say, because power of attorney actually allows me to meet with the IRS one-on-one. I can negotiate with them. Like I said, I just did that this morning for a client. And when I'm representing you under a power of attorney, I have basically, we say in the business, I have stepped into your shoes, right? So the IRS is talking to me just like they would talk to you, and I can talk to them and actually make deals with them, negotiate whatever it may be. So the answer is yes, a tax attorney can and does represent you with the IRS. That's a very, very common thing that we do all the time. I do it every day, just about, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for elaborating on that particular question, because that is a question that I do often get, and I like to have people that I can rely on, experts that I can rely on, that I can refer business to. So with that being said, one of the other questions that kind of pivots off of that one is that, is there some limitations as to what you can and how far you can represent them?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different things to take into consideration. First of all, as you know, under the legal rules of ethics, let's say, okay, well, let's use the example from this morning, right? The IRS was charging my guy a bunch of penalties, and when I say a bunch of penalties, I guess everything's relative, but it was about $1.5 million
Okay.
worth of penalties. To me, that's a bunch, right? So, so they were, proposing these penalties. I wrote a letter to the IRS. I negotiated. I had a conference this morning with appeals, and they have now offered to cut that down 80% to a little over $200,000. No, that's a pretty good deal, and I even talked to my boss about that. I said, look, they're offering this. That's a really good deal. But I am, the legal rules of ethics do not allow me, no matter how good a deal I think it is, I'm not allowed to just go ahead and accept that without talking to my client. So I had to write up an email, send it to my client. He hasn't gotten back with me yet. I just did that a little while ago,
Hmm.
and so I'm anticipating he's going to say yes. And so it's a pretty good deal. We got rid of 80% of the penalties, but the final say in the matter belongs to him. Now, sometimes what clients will do is they'll give you a range, right? And they'll say, John, settle my tax debt. I owe $100,000, and I'm willing to pay anything up through 20,000, right? And so if you up front give me that authority, then I know that I can actually make that deal with the IRS because you've already, pre-approved that. You've already pre-cleared me to do that for you.
Gotcha.
Now, as
Okay. Well,
far as the
great.
IRS itself is concerned, there's one thing that they are very touchy about. Now, I can sign on your behalf if I've got power of an attorney in effect. I can sign on your behalf just about anything that they put in front of me, but there's one thing that I can't sign for you except under really very special and limited circumstances, which is a tax return. So you can't say to me, John, here's all my information, prepare my tax return, and oh, by the way, sign it and file it for me.
I
I'm
got you.
not
Okay.
supposed to do that.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, just very briefly, I mean, this is great information, but very briefly, who would be the ideal client that you would be referred to you?
Yeah, well, I kind of usually like to work with small business. Either individuals is fine,
Hmm.
or small business anywhere from the six figures on up into the eight figures. Like
Okay.
I usually say 1 million to 10 million, but if you're not doing $1 million in revenue, that's not a problem. I'll still talk to you. I'll probably even take your case, but it's got to be like let's say your problem with the IRS should be over something like $25,000 for it to really be worth it for you. Because when you sign up for me, I'm going to ask for an upfront retainer, as any lawyer probably does, or at least I don't know of very many that ever do work without one. And so my upfront retainer might be anywhere from three, four, $5,000. And so if you got a $10,000 problem and I'm going to ask you for $5,000 up front, it's probably not worth it, right?
Right.
And so my practice is I do a little, I don't do any compliance work. So that's tax preparation. So there's not H&R Block, right? So one of the things that I do is tax consulting and advising. So if you say, hey, I've got a company, for example, and I want to sell it next year, what kind of things should I do to be prepared for that so that the tax bite can be less for me, right? So I can do things like that, but
Okay.
mostly 80% of what I do is IRS problem resolution. And so if you got an IRS problem, I'm your guy. But just, it's got to be worth it, right? Or else I'm just gonna, I'll talk to you and I'll try and help you out and give you kind of a way, guidance way to go about it. But for you to actually hire me and me represent you, it's not worth it unless you have a problem up to a certain level.
All right, perfect. Mr. Mitchell, we appreciate you being on the show. Great information. We definitely do appreciate you being here and providing us with all that content. But this is a time where you get to tell our viewers how can they get in touch with you in case they do need some representation.
Absolutely, no problem. Like we said, I'm here in Greenway Plaza area of Houston. And so they can, you can make an appointment, stop by and see me in person. I do obviously, Zoom or telephone, whatever is comfortable. So you can call me to set all of that up, 713-333-0555, or even better way to get a hold of me is by email. And my email address is jmitchell@cctaxlaw.com. And happy to hear from folks out there. If you got any kind of tax issues, I'll talk to you and we'll try and work our way through it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We definitely do appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you again on the show as well. And thank you for taking the time for being here today. All right, folks, that is Mr. Mitchell with Cantrell, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back, folks. In case you're just joining us, this is BizTalks, and I'm your host, Rick Gutierrez. Thank you for joining us. Up next, we've got an amazing conversation with someone who is an expert in the world of AI. Dr. Alan Badeau, welcome back to the show, sir.
Hi, Rick. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. We are excited to have this conversation here with you today because the world of AI is exploding. If it hasn't already, it's probably going to explode even more. It almost seems like it's here to stay, but you are the expert. Tell us, is AI here to stay?
Yeah, I think it's the new normal. People need to get used to it because it's not going anywhere.
Right. So one of the things that I've come across many times is people thinking that AI or AI platforms, you can use it similar to other search engines, and that is not the case. I learned about prompt engineering myself and how effective prompt engineering is in order to get AI to get you what you need, to extract from it what you need. So prompt engineering, is that something that, I mean, is there a science to that? Is that the question? That's the question that I'm asking. Is there a science to prompt engineering?
I don't know if I'd say it's a science, but it is a process. And there are so many different ways that you can go about asking a whole bunch of these large language models different questions and getting them to answer things that maybe earlier on in your conversation with it wouldn't answer. And so what you have to do is first you generally have to, of course, ask it something that is relevant and what it's good at. Believe it or not all of these large language models behave the same. So for instance, you may ask ChatGPT a question and it'll give you one answer. You may ask Perplexity, Cohere, Claude, there's a whole bunch of them out there, and they may give you a different answer, and it might be a little bit better. And so you've got to figure out for your specific problem, which large language model works the best, which one gives you the best answer, and then go from there. And after you start that process, then you start to try to drill down into it. We have what's called prompt chaining, and that's where you take a big problem and break it up into smaller chunks and ask the chat model those smaller chunks until you get the full answer in what you're trying to do.
Fantastic. So that's a great way to put it. It's a process, not necessarily a science. Some would call that there is a formula to how you can elaborate what you need from AI in order for it to give it exactly what you need. So tell us, in your world, in this world of AI, is this something that prompt engineering is something that people will be able to go to school for, get degrees on this? How does that work in this world?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rick, because this is what I tell folks and how they can really educate themselves to use these models to their advantage. So for instance, if you just go to any of these models that are out there and you ask it a large, all-encompassing question, maybe it's, write me a script that will allow me to do everything in my business, right? Mm-hmm. Something like that. It's going to give you a wacky answer. It's probably going to be wrong. It's not going to be very well defined. or if you even ask it, hey, will you write a proposal for me? And, you're expecting 30, 40 pages from a proposal, it may give you a half a paragraph. So that is not definitely what folks are going to be looking for. And so what you have to do is, as you're drilling down and you're breaking it up, you start to ask it different relevant questions. So think about it from a target, and maybe you're shooting an arrow or something else at a target. You start very small, and then you keep layering in the rings. You get an answer for the really small ring, and then you go to the next ring, which is a little bit bigger, and then so on and so forth until you get the answer. Now, there are a lot of different materials that are out there that will teach you how to do basic prompt engineering. And you can go to GitHub. There's some really good ones on GitHub. You can even go to, some of the educational areas, inside of these chat models where they will actually tell you how to do that. Like ChatGPT has a great section on how to write prompts. Claude 3 has a fantastic section, how to write prompts. But the problem is as you start to try to apply those to your problem, it may get a little difficult. It may get a little frustrating. And so just the only thing that you can do is practice. You've got to feel your way around which gives you a good response. In some cases, something that worked well on one problem will not work very well on another problem using the same large language model. And so it's really, start with the basics. And then after that, it's going to be, trial and error. But you always have to be very specific in what you're asking for. Don't give it a small, 15-word prompt that says, I want you to act like William Shakespeare and write a commercial for me. That's not going to get you what you're looking for. You have to delve really deep into it and say, I want this, I want this, I want this. And your prompt usually needs to be about 4 or 5 sentences long.
Perfect. So as you were speaking, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, with all of these layers, when you unpack it and try to do all of these different layers to get to a final result to set you what you want, should we have a concern when it comes to authenticity? Because sometimes I see a lot of folks using AI for many different things, and you get to wonder, authenticity, is it being compromised by using AI?
Yeah, authenticity, bias, there are a lot of concerns people should have. For instance, you may ask it a question, and we'll just use a simple example where you say, I want you to write a program that pulls in a certain type of data, and with that data, there could be some that it could be deemed unethical, or there is something wrong that set off one of the filters. Political issues, personal issues usually will set off these filters. And so it won't give you a response. It'll say, just like the error that you saw, it'll either give you an error like that, or it'll say, I'm not able to answer that question. But there are ways around that when you start to ask it other prompts. If you start to say, hey, will you write me a script on X, Y, and Z, or a Python script if we're being more specific, it'll probably give you an answer. It'll look like a Python code, but it'll give you the answer in there. Now, there could be some ethical challenges. I demo these all the time when I go to corporate meetings and even government meetings, and I show them these are some of the things that can be generated if your folks aren't careful. So you have to be very conscious that sometimes the responses are going to be set off by different prompts. Sometimes it's going to lead to just completely wrong and false information. And then other times you're going to have some ethical challenges that you probably weren't expecting, and you just have to make sure that you understand how to handle them.
Yeah, it's a subject that is still fairly new, and a lot of people are wanting to know more about it, get more involved, and use it on a daily basis. I've had some conversation with people that say they use it on a daily basis. So what would you say to those folks that use AI to generate content and they just copy and paste and not give it a once over or anything like that? What would you recommend to people like that?
Good luck. That's what I'm pulling for you. That's what I mean. That's the best thing that I can tell them, because one, I do have a problem with folks that just take content and generate it and throw it in like it's their own. I do have an issue with that. If you do that, then you have to be willing to accept the consequences. There are so many different examples of how that can go wrong really fast. So, be careful when you do stuff like that. You cannot take the human out of the loop, because otherwise you're going to have some issues. I have it right code. I'm one of those guys that uses it all the time. It's, I've got multiple ones open at my desk doing something for me, but I still check everything that they do, because these models will hallucinate. They'll give you wrong answers. And if you are not checking them and doing the right quality checks against them, and you pass it off as your own, then you also have to be willing to accept the consequences that come along with that. And, I warn people, check it twice, make sure it looks good, have another large language model even check it after you check it, and then check that one, because that's the only way in some cases you're going to be able to find that it is either completely made up what it is telling you, or it is just factually wrong. So you just have to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Taking personal responsibility on the content that you use or choose to use, it's something that could do really well for you, or it could not. So, Dr. Badeau, I'm really interested in one particular aspect of what you are currently working on that has you really excited. Can you elaborate on that one thing that you're really excited about right now that you're particularly working on?
Yeah, from my perspective, we are trying to give these models perspective and personalities. And the reason for that is if you want it to behave in a certain way, it's hard for the model to remember its purpose, to remember why it's answering a question in the way that it does. And so from our research, we believe that giving it a personality and building that into the model, not just using prompt engineering, but going multiple layers deep, where you can, build in that it's supposed to act a certain way, and it's supposed to be ethical, and it's supposed to be responsible. Then as it is learning your behaviors and trying to do the things that you want it to specifically do, it'll do it better, it'll do it faster, and it'll do it more accurately. And at the end of the day, that's all we're trying to do is make these models a little bit more trustworthy and really perform for their human users the way that they're supposed to perform.
Perfect. Dr. Badeau, we definitely do appreciate you being on the show one more time. We have seen the content of other videos that you've done in the past. Amazing content, great information that you provide to all of our viewers. We definitely do appreciate you being here once again. But this is your one time for you to tell our viewers, how can we get in touch with you? How can we get a hold of you?
Yeah, folks can reach me at harmonicai.ai or Alan Badeau. Or alanbadeau.ai is another way that folks can get a hold of me. The fun part is, I respond to a ton of emails just with general questions. I love doing that. I want to get the message out to folks, and so don't be afraid to write me and ask some questions. Happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Badeau. We definitely do appreciate, like I mentioned, having you here again over at BizTalks. We'll talk to you soon. Hey folks, welcome back to BizTalks. In case you're just now tuning in, my name is Rick Gutierrez, your business advocate and your host for this show. We have an amazing guest that is going to be with us and talking about all kinds of great things about how to help business professionals and even individuals in terms of their taxes and all that good stuff. Ms. Noura, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here again.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be with you here, Rick.
We're excited to have you. I know that we've got a great conversation about how you help business professionals and business owners and individuals as well in the world of taxes. So tell us a little bit about your business. Tell us exactly what you do. I believe the term is enrolled agent. So elaborate a little bit more as to what you do in helping business owners and individuals with their taxes.
Sure. So I want to talk about the enrolled agent. Means actually this is a designation you get from the IRS Well, you have to take 3 different exams. One about representation. You learn how to represent your clients in front of the IRS offices, all administrative IRS offices across the country. And then another one is business law. Another one is individual law. So basically tax law. So once you pass all 3 exams, you send the application to the IRS offices, and that you are qualified now to be an enrolled agent of you check all the boxes of being qualified. So that's give you the authority to represent the client on behalf of the IRS. So basically the client, whether it's like business owners, nonprofit, or individuals, they just have to do a power of attorney on my name, and then I can speak to the IRS representative on their behalf, making decision on their behalf, walk them through any problem they might have with the IRS, especially now, like after tax season is over, they actually can get letter from the IRS. When they receive that letter, I want them to not panic, and they can actually reach out to me, and I can definitely help them. So this is one of the services I offer in my firm. My firm is Noura's Books. It's tax and accounting firm. Actually, what we do there, part of it like a tax resolution with any tax problem, of course, tax preparation for business, nonprofits, and individuals. We do also bookkeeping, which is like keep the business owner and nonprofit organized to make sure they are ready to file their taxes. They're ready to do their estimated taxes over the year. So they will never hesitate on taking an informed decision, because they have their financial already set and an order, because they're doing their bookkeeping, hopefully. So we help them with that. We do this monthly. We do cleanup if someone like need to catch up and like enroll in a monthly bookkeeping. We do that. We do CFO services when we take the bookkeeping into another level, do cash flow management that can include compliance, because compliance, one of the biggest challenges actually business owners can face. They kind of neglect compliance, and that can actually get them out of business, because if you neglect compliance, you're gonna face a lot of bills coming to you that you cannot catch up with eventually. So it's better to take care of that from the beginning. Now, people don't neglect compliance because they want to neglect it, of course, because they are busy with their business, doing their business. They did not start a business to do compliance, which totally understandable. But this is why you always have to have a tax professional on your side to help you keep everything in order. So this is basically what we do. And we have actually coaching program. I have a 7-figure nonprofit mastermind coaching program for nonprofits to help them increase their donor base, to help them maintain and build the capacity of their nonprofit so they can be ready for grants. They can be ready to get major donations, so they can build strong, impactful nonprofits. So I have also some courses, so people can go to these courses, and through my website, they can go to nourasbooks.com/store, and there's all the courses over there. One thing I'm offering for business owners, totally for free, on May 9th, I will have actually free masterclass. They can register for the free masterclass. It's going to be online, so anyone can register. That can help people maximize their cash flows using tax strategies.
Absolutely. So I'm glad that you touched on the subject about compliance, because you are correct. Us business owners, we don't start the business to necessarily or think about compliance, but it's something that is always in the forefront. It's something that we're always thinking about, but not the first thing that we think about. So my question to you is, and to help other business professionals out there, or even individuals, what can we do, what strategies can we put in place to maximize our efforts in being compliant so that your job may be easier?
So tax law is complicated, and there's always something new. So as a business owner, most likely if you are alone, you're not going to be able to be up to date. So I suggest you always are in contact with a tax accountant who knows your business, who gets the time to learn your business, so they can inform you of everything you need to do. So you can have a plan. Something needs to do monthly. Something you need to do quarterly. Get the education, basic education you need, just so you know what you have to do. I'm not expecting you to do it yourself, because many people actually, when they try to do things themselves, they do it wrong. Then they come to us with a disaster, and now we have to fix it. And it's gonna cost them more time and money just to fix what happened. So it's better to work with a tax professional from day one, all along the year, not only with tax season, because that is too late. A lot of compliance, especially with the states, especially when you have employee or if you have sales tax, all of these stuff, you need to be in contact with a tax professional, that you work with them like in a monthly basis at least.
So your recommendation is to the business owner or the individual, don't try to do it yourself. Hire a professional, hire an expert that is going to walk you through those challenges, if you would, or those strategies to help you be more in compliance. I love that, absolutely love it. So I got another question for you, because earlier you mentioned that you took 3 exams and to be able to be certified as a enrolled agent. So kudos to you for taking all that education and passing those exams. But one of the things that I absolutely love to ask a tax strategist is, who is your ideal client profile? How can we help you grow your business and put you in front of the right client that absolutely will make a difference in your business, let's say?
So my ideal client, basically service-based business owners who have a consultancy, coaching, and nonprofit organization who are trying to grow their donor base and stay in compliance. So these are 2 profile of my ideal clients.
Awesome. So ideal client profiles are essential. We need to know who those are, and apparently it looks like you do. But you don't only help businesses, right? You help individuals that could potentially, you mentioned something earlier when we were talking off screen, to where people could potentially get a letter in the mail, and what you don't want them to do is what?
So I don't want them to panic. I want them to just take their time and connect with a tax professional, and then take advice from there, and don't try to just communicate with the IRS right away, because I notice like over and over, when people actually try to connect with the IRS on their own, they get things more complicated. And if that happens, we might not be able to save the case, because like it's very time sensitive. That's the word. Time sensitive. Right. So they give you always like 30 days, like you have to get to reply to them, to give them what they need. And sometimes you would give them like so much information, or a very few little information. Sometimes you try to call them on your own, and you get an advice that is not correct advice, because not everyone is trained, and they shouldn't actually give you a tax advice, so they can't really guide you. So the best thing you do is just like, do not panic, open the letter right away, because I know like a lot of us don't open the mail every day. Open the letter right away, and just connect with a tax professional and start working with them on that.
Perfect. So if I'm not mistaken, you could also represent them if you were to have a power of attorney at different capacities, right? So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. So the power of attorney, this is a power of attorney, especially for the IRS. So the first thing I would do, like when I want to work with a client with a tax resolution case, like we do this power of attorney. It's a form with the IRS, like the client fill it up and determine what is actually the things that I'm allowed to discuss on their behalf. It's just like you going to an attorney, like you just want their attorney to represent you, for example, on the divorce case. Same thing here, like only you want for this specific years or for a specific form. And then I'll be able to call the IRS on the client's behalf without clients have to be on the phone. I can just call and discuss any matter make a decision on behalf of the client that I know, because I discussed this before with the clients, I know that they will be okay with. For example, if we are discussing a payment plan, I know the capacity of my client, so I negotiate the best plan for them. Or any issue, like if we want to try to actually remove penalty, sometimes we are able to do that. It depends on the case, so it's case by case. Sometimes we can reduce it, sometimes we can waive it. But it depends on the case. So I can do everything on behalf of the client unless they need to go to the courts. This is the only thing. If it's got that bad, like going to the courts, then now they need to have an attorney, a tax attorney. But anything away from the courts, I can work with the client to solve it.
Perfect. Noura, thank you so much for being on the show today. We definitely do admire your expertise and how you help many people in the world of tax. How can our viewers get in touch with you?
Sure, thank you. So they can go to nourasbooks.com/contact to book a call with me, and I'll be happy to talk to them, and they can attend my free masterclass coming up on May 9. They can always do that.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you once again, Noura, for being on the show. We appreciate your expertise, and we look forward to having you on the show and future shows. All right, folks, that does it for this week's show of BizTalk. Here with me, Rick Gutierrez, your host and your business advocate. Stay tuned for additional upcoming shows in the upcoming weeks. We look forward to seeing you and being here with you. Until next time, take care of each other.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation.